Hello everyone. Welcome back to the video on my Storytime channel. So I'm going to continue reading the second book of the Left Behind the Kids series, Second Chance. And I'm up to chapter 10, The Mystery, on page 123. Okay, here it is. 123. Judd was glad Ryan Daly had followed Vicky and him to find Bruce and Lionel. He had a feeling this was going to be a good meeting, regardless of what Ryan decided. Still, despite his anticipation of telling Bruce his and Vicky's good news, Judd couldn't shake the turmoil deep inside of him. He wondered whether, even if he survived the 7 years of tribulation that was to come, he would ever forget his regret, his remorse, and the bitter loss of his family. He tried to push that aside for now, knowing that everyone who had been left behind faced the same anxiety. Bruce opened their little meeting with prayer. Then he asked each person to bring the group up to date since the last time they had been together. Judd was first, and he told his and Vicky's talks of their adventure at O'Hare, and added that he would leave it for Vicky to tell about what she had found at their home and what spiritual decision she had come to. As for me, he said, I finally realized I was being stubborn and stupid to put off doing something I should have done years ago. When Bruce realized what Judd was saying, he immediately stood and leaned down to embrace him. Judd felt awkward and embarrassed. His dad had not been much for hugging, especially after Judd got to be about 12. But still, he was glad Bruce seemed to be genuinely happy for him. Bruce was on the verge of tears when he said, Lionel and I welcome you to the family. We're all brothers in Christ. Lionel reached out a congratulatory fist, and Judd met it with his own. Then it was Vicky's turn. I'm going to keep this short, Bruce, because you look like you could use some sleep. Oh, don't worry about me. And I'm going to tell in the order it happened. Her story was much like Judd's. Of course, when she got to the part where she prayed to receive Christ, Bruce embraced her too and welcomed her as a sister in the family. Lionel reached out his fist and she patted it, making him chuckle. Judd was too embarrassed to hug her, so he shook her hand. Meanwhile, it appeared Ryan was taking this all in. When Vicky told of finding the burned out shell of her trailer, Bruce looked startled. He did not appear to be pleased to hear that she would seem to be planning to stay with Judd for a while. Judd felt he had to explain. We're not going together, even interested in anything like that, he said. And we would stay on different floors. We're more like brother and sister, like you said. I'd feel more comfortable if I could find you a woman from the church to stay with, like my secretary. I'd feel more comfortable if I could find you a woman from the church to stay with, like my secretary. She has a big home with lots of room, and she's by herself now. I don't think I want to do that, Vicky said. This doesn't have to look bad, and if it does, only because people are assuming the wrong thing. Bruce looked as if he wanted to talk about it some more, but instead he urged Vicky to continue with their story. That's all, really. Bruce called on Lionel, who gave a rundown of all that he and Ryan had been through. Judd was surprised he had seemed to speak for Ryan, but it was also likely that Ryan didn't want to talk anyway. If Lionel didn't tell Ryan's part, no one would. Judd was amazed at all they had been through in such a short time. Was this what it was going to be like then? Nothing but trouble around the clock? How awful about Lionel's uncle. I could take you to that high school where the morgue is, Judd offered. I've already got that covered, Bruce said. I'll call to see where they're shipping the bodies, but there's surely no high school has the equipment to hold bodies for long. We'll find out where Lionel's uncle Andre is, and we'll get him over there to identify the body. Bruce asked Ryan if he wanted to say anything. That was when Judd noticed that Ryan had still the tract he had taken from the foyer. He was pretending to study it, but he had time to read it over and over if he wanted. Ryan said nothing. He just shook his head. Fair enough, Bruce, and no one's going to pressure you. You can get part of this group as long as you want, regardless of what you decide to do. When you're ready, you make the decision on your own. Finally, Ryan spoke. And what if my decision is to say no? Bruce said nobody can make the decision for you. You have to live with the consequences. Or die with them, Lionel said. Suddenly, Ryan was mad. Judd thought he'd be my bold again. He's been talking to me that way all day, Ryan said. What kind of a Christian is that? I've only been kidding. Kids our age crack on people all the time. Can't you take it? It has to be a fragile time for him, Bruce said. It's that way for all of us, Lionel said. But that doesn't mean we have to be so pushy, so touchy. Sorry, my mistake. Yeah, exactly. My mistake. Anyways, continue the story. It's that way for all of us, Lionel said. But that doesn't mean we have to be so touchy. I just want you to quit hassling me, Lionel, okay? Lionel shrugged. I guess if it's bothering you that much. It is. So if I start talking nicer to you, will you? Bruce held up a hand. No deals, no bribes, no pressure, remember? Lionel nodded. Sorry. Judd wanted to make his offer. I'd like both of you guys to stay at my place, too. I was hoping you'd say that, Ryan said. I feel better about Vicky staying there if the other two were there, too, Bruce said. Judd felt some of his old rebellion surfacing. He said Bruce is implying that Judd was responsible to him. Maybe Bruce considered himself Judd's pastor already, and because he was older, thought he could boss him around. Judd thought maybe he did need somebody doing that, because his first reaction came from the person he used to be. He didn't like being told what to do. What kind of Christian was he going to be? Well, Bruce seemed more comfortable with everybody staying in the same house, so maybe it wouldn't be an issue again. Judd hoped not. After the meeting, the kids filed into Bruce's office where he began calling around to find out who in Chicago would know anything about Lionel's Uncle Andre. The phone still gave everyone fits, and between busy signals, bad connections, and the usual runarounds and red tape everyone had to go through, it appeared to Judd that Bruce was getting to the end of his rope. Finally, someone was able to tell him that the bodies that had been delivered to the high school in Andre's neighborhood would be available for identification at a city morgue in a nearby precinct late that Friday afternoon, 2 days away. I'll take it then, Bruce told Lionel. Then he helped load Ryan's, Lionel's, and Judd's bikes into the trunk of that junk's car. They took up so much room that Judd left the trunk open as the four of them clambered in for the ride to his house. Judd rolled down his window and called out to Bruce. "You wouldn't rather stay with us too? Only if you really need me," Bruce said. Judd was relieved. He wished Bruce had a place to stay that wouldn't be so painful for him. But the independent part of Judd also liked the idea that he would be the oldest. But the independent part of Judd also liked the idea that he would be the oldest in the house, and the house was his after all. He didn't know if he was up to being in charge of three people he hardly knew, but he was eager to find out. Being in charge was not at all what Judd expected. Was not at all what Judd expected. For the next few days, it seemed all he did was worry about what Vicky was thinking, referee arguments between Ryan and Lionel, and try to explain why he and Vicky got the good rooms and the other two got the leftovers. He had no say over when anybody came and went. He wasn't their parent or boss, as they reminded him often. He suddenly realized how tough it would be to parent whose kid or kids didn't respect him or listen to him or obey him. He was getting a clear view of what a problem he had been to his parents. Just spent a lot of time digging through his dad's papers, finding out what bills had to be paid and when. He also found the documents that told him where his father has money deposited and what accounts had balances. He was grateful to realize his father was a good money manager and planner, and there was more than enough there to last anyone 10 years, let alone 7, if he was careful. She gave Vicky cash to buy herself some clothes, and she proved to be very frugal. She told him she could really use his mother's stuff, and she wouldn't need that much more. And she kept insisting that she would get a job and pay him back. "You really don't need to," Judd said. "There's plenty more money. So I'm just supposed to become a bum and let someone else pay for everything for me? I don't think so, Judd. I mean, I appreciate what kind of pride would I have if I let you do that?" Judd didn't know what to say. Ryan said he would be happy to let Judd pay for everything, but Lionel shamed him to admitting that he would only feel good about himself too if he was earning some money to contribute to the pot. Bruce phoned Judd's home during the middle of the afternoon that Friday. "Judd," he said, "I hate to do this to you, but I'm going to need you to bail me out. I've got people calling right and left, and I'm meeting with them, counseling them, you name it. I've gone nowhere and trying to prepare for Sunday. It looks like we're going to be jam-packed." "What do you need?" Judd asked. "I need you to drive Lionel into that morgue. It's not in a good part of town, and you know you've not dealt with Chicago authorities before, but if I tell you who I'm going to ask for and what to say, can you handle it?" "Sure. And you need me to know as soon as you get back, so I'll know you're safe." Judd hesitated. "Judd, well, you don't want to do it? I understand. I'll get someone else." "No, it's not that. I just want to talk to you about checking in with you to let you know I'm safe and all that. I don't want to get into that trap. I'm only asking you this time because I'm asking you to do something as a favor for me, something I should be doing myself." "Yeah, okay. I don't mind." Bruce gave Judd all the information and directions. Surprisingly, not only did Ryan want to go along, but so did Vicky. Judd talked them out of it. "It's not a good part of town," he said. "I figure there'll be lots of cops there. If they see a bunch of kids, they might have a lot of questions. Just let Lionel and me do this, and when we get back, we'll tell you all about it." Vicky found it strange to be alone in the house with Ryan. They had not talked much, and he didn't seem interested in starting. She tried to make small talk with him, but she didn't get far. He'd already heard her life story and what had been happening to her lately. She tried to interest him in the news, then remembered that he had been watching the news when he learned of his father's death. She wanted to comfort him, encourage him, point him toward God, but she was at a loss. She had no idea how to reach him. "I promised Bruce we'd all be in church Sunday morning," she tried at one point. "You didn't promise for him for me, I hope," Ryan said. "Everybody's always deciding for me what I'm going to do." "You don't want to go?" "Of course not. Haven't you figured that out already? Figured that out yet? I know you don't believe this stuff yet, but I think if you want to check it out. Aren't you curious at what Bruce is going to say to all the people who come looking for answers? I think it would be cool just to see how many show up, what they're thinking, how Bruce does. He says he's never really been a preacher, but he can't wait to tell these people about Jesus." Ryan clamped up then. "Well, I did tell Bruce I thought we would all be there," Vicky added, "but you made no promises, so it's up to you." "I'll probably come," Ryan said, as if he had no choice. Vicky thought that showed his progress. It was totally up to him, and he was pretending to reluctantly go along. Ryan wandered up to his room, the one that used to belong to Judd's little brother, Mark. Vicky got out the Bible Bruce had given her and started reading in the New Testament where he told her to begin. Who would have ever thought, she wondered, that she would want to read the Bible at all, let alone on her own when no one was making her? Lionel wasn't comfortable with Judd yet. As they rode to Chicago, he found himself having to work at holding his end of the conversation. He was sort of amused at Judd. He had been a rich kid from a good home who had tried to blend in with the bad kids and the rebels. Lionel knew the type. He found Jude sort of plain not at all a tough guy or streetwise. That made it funny to him that Jude tried to be something that he was not. In fact, he was so far from the image he tried to project that was laughable. Lionel had to admit that Jude changed pretty quickly. With the goatee gone and him no longer wearing all black, Jude started to look like a normal suburban teen. Lionel asked him about the details of the visit to the morgue. When Jude told him what Bruce had spelled out, Lionel said, I think I can handle this myself. Your car is probably not going to be safe down there, so you should probably stay with it. I won't be long. Lionel thought Jude would put up a fuss, insisting on talking with the authorities himself. So far, Jude seemed to enjoy playing the big shot, but to Lionel's surprise, Jude seemed relieved. Yeah, okay, he said quickly. That's probably a good idea. I'll stay with the car, you do the stuff, and then we'll be out of there. When Jude finally pulled into the small fenced lot behind the gray morgue building, he handed Lionel the sheet with the contact name. I'll be right out, Lionel said. He prepared himself, he thought, for this moment. He had to be sure Andre was dead, and there was no better way to see than to see his body for himself. Lionel had always hated funerals, and if he had been to a share for someone 13 years old. What he hated most was the filing past the bodies. He always peeked them, but he didn't stop and linger. He knew this would not be easy. He had seen a lot of movies where someone had to identify a body. The coroner, the medical examiner, or whoever would dramatically yank the sheet away, and the identifier would collapse from the shock. Lionel didn't want that to happen. He knew Andre was in danger most of his life, and whether he really killed himself or he had been murdered, it was no surprise that he had come to the end so soon. But he didn't want to be shocked by some horrible sight. Lionel stepped from the car with confidence, telling himself to just do his duty and get it over with. It made him feel grown up to handle this for his parents. He wished he could see them as brother and sisters, but he was sure glad they weren't dead. Yet as Lionel reached near the front of the building, he felt as if his legs had turned into jelly. He began to shudder and tremble, and he found it difficult to put one foot in front of the other. His breath came in short gasps, and he fought the urge to race back to the car and have Jude brought him back to Mountain Prospect. I'm going to do this, he thought. I have to, otherwise I'll be a wuss just like Ryan. Lionel put his hand on the brass handle of the front door and stopped. It was as if he was paralyzed, his legs heavy. The handle felt icy, though it was not that cold out. He forced himself to pull the heavy door open, and he was immediately struck with fear and dread by what he saw. There was nothing at all like he had assumed. The entire place had been turned into a storage area for white-sheeted bodies. Lionel thought a morgue had one area for bodies and drawers. He knew that was true, but it shouldn't have surprised him. But it shouldn't have surprised him to find this morgue overcrowded with everything that had gone on. Lionel felt the cold rush from the air conditioners. This place, with the whole building, was cold as a refrigerator. Covered bodies were lined up in stretchers down on both sides of the hallway, and Lionel could only assume that's the way it was all through the building. A board receptionist in a winter coat said, "You can't be in here, son. What are you doing?" "I'm here to identify a body," he said. "All the bodies here have been identified," she said. Lionel dug the sheet of instructions from his pocket. "Looking for Assistant Medical Examiner Ford," he said. The receptionist paged him. "You better take a seat," she said. "No telling how long he'll be." He was 20 minutes, time enough for Lionel to calm himself if he was able. But he was not able. All the waiter did was make him more upset. He wanted to be anywhere other than this creepy place. None of the dead bodies he had ever seen before were related to him. He had no idea how he would react. Dr. Ford was a pudgy man in a hurry, and he was all business. "You're Washington? Where's Barnes?" "Couldn't make it. This way, Washington." Lionel followed the fast-walking doctor down the halls between the stretchers with bodies on them. He held his breath and looked neither right nor left. The doctor peeled a couple of sheets of paper back off his clipboard and studied the page. "Andre Dupree, right?" "Yes, sir. Age 36, male, African-American, 5'8", 155 pounds. "That's him. He's in the back. You okay?" "Yeah, just a lot of breath. Almost there. Could you do it slow?" "What, walking? Lots to do, son. Never seen this many deaths in so short a time. Never anything like it." "No, I mean, will you show me this body slow?" "Meaning like don't whip the sheet off." "I never do that." "Good." When Dr. Ford got to the back, the place looked more like what Lionel expected. More like what Lionel expected. 6 bodies were lined up next to each other. The doctor lifted the bottom of the sheets and read the tags on the toes of 2 in the middle. "Dupree," he said. Here are his effects if you want them." "You throw away the jeans? They were unstained with blood. Lots of it frayed, so this is a suicide, you know." I figured. Lionel was having trouble speaking loudly enough to be heard. He still wasn't sure if he could keep from running out of there. The doctor handed him a manila envelope collapsed by a red string. He unwound it with shaky fingers and saw his uncle's watch, bracelet, earring, ring, beeper, belt, and socks. "He came in here with that and a pair of jeans and stocking feet." Lionel nodded, dreading of what was to come. The doctor moved to the other end of the stretcher. Ever done this before, son?" Lionel shook his head. "I'm just going to fold the sheet back to this chest and you can see his face. Did I identify him to you?" "That's not necessary. Identify is not in question in this case. The personal effects were on the body and in the pockets. A neighbor identified him. He was in his own apartment. You can just look away for a moment if you like. Lionel held the envelope in both hands as if he were holding a hat in front of him. He heard the slow rustle of the sheet. Okay, son, Dr. Ford said. Lionel stared speechless at the expressionless face, and his heart seemed to stop. He could hear himself breathing. He wanted to say something when words would not come. All right, the doctor said. Lionel nodded, his lips quivering. Okay, so this is Left Behind the Kids number 2, Second Chance, chapter 10, and part 1. Take care, everybody. Another video from my Storytime channel.